Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy. I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yes, and we are here with Mama Rose. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. You have an exciting month coming up.
Yes, I have an exciting month. It's been exciting so far, and there's more excitement coming.
That's awesome. You are releasing your inaugural album. It's coming out on February 26th, and that is Drink More Water.
Yeah.
I love that name. Tell us about the CD. Tell us about the name. Start there. Just how this came about.
A good place to start. So I actually didn't name the project until I was done with it, and I was really kind of unsure why the title kept being so elusive, because it just seems like something that would maybe be first, or at least maybe not take quite so long. But I noticed that once I had compiled all the songs for the project, and there are 6 songs on the project, that they had a theme about water. So it was, and not just in the content of the songs, because they're not all directly about water, but also just in what I had learned about my creative process through the creation of the project. And also I was pregnant the whole time that I was creating the project, which is just like, for me, the most wet, watery, fluid way of being. And water is just like the metaphor that always hits for me. Like, no matter what I'm thinking about or talking about or what I'm doing in my life, it's just, there's something there with that connection. I mean, obviously it's a very human thing to be connected to. But there's something there that's like really sobering and grounding and humbling and inspiring for me. And I've been thinking for quite a few years about the relationship that I have with water. And thinking about it as a relationship is pretty powerful for me, because it puts this space between myself and this thing that isn't me. And it gets me asking questions about, like, at what point does that become me, And maybe there's a point where it actually becomes me. Maybe I'm just connected with this thing in a way all the time where we're kind of shifting the boundaries of what's me and what's earth. And it's something that for me is very close to my heart, because I want everybody on our planet to be more connected with not only our bodies personally, but also the body of our planet. And I think that water is really the way to do that. So I'm hoping that Drink More Water can be an affirmation. Like, every time that anybody has seen any of the promo for this project, that's in there, and maybe you're like, oh yeah, like maybe I should. Or maybe that's something that can just kind of weasel its way in, if it's not already in there, and start to just increase our health and our vitality. And I can talk about this for a long time, so I won't talk about it for too much longer, but there's so much wisdom in water, and we are able to communicate with water in a way that actually changes the energetic structure of the water. And I think that that's so beautiful and so powerful that we can pray or set intention over our water and change it. Like, we're made out of that. So we can do that with our bodies. We can do that with our lakes and rivers. We can do that with the water that we're drinking in our cup before it becomes our body. There's just so much there. There's so much connection and opportunity there. So the fluidity in the creative process, creating a child, all of that kind of together goes into that. I just want people to look at that relationship with water more.
I love that phrase, there's wisdom in water.
Yeah.
And that is really very striking. Yeah.
And
I think it's, I could see being pregnant, because it feels like you have an ocean inside of you, sometimes in an awesome way and sometimes in a, in a just very real way, that sort of, that's fun. I love so much. And I think especially in Minnesota, where we've got the 10,000 lakes. And I was just last night talking to people about swimming and drowning, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is not what I normally talk about on a Friday and a Sunday night, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of coming at it with this conversation with that freshly in my mind, but because water can be so helpful and so nourishing, but it can also be its own thing.
Yeah. So two things that come to mind for me on that. One is that I just love how in Minnesota, when it's winter and the snow piles up really high, that's water. And when I just like remind myself of that when I'm standing on the sidewalk, it's like, if this was not frozen, I would be surrounded by feet compressed, but I would be surrounded by feet of water. And isn't that so cool to just be physically surrounded by water in a space where in the summer it's just, maybe even really dry. That I think is really cool. Also, what I think is really cool is that we can look at the way that water behaves as a way of creating inspired action. So like water carves stone in a way that you can't just do with sitting there with a hammer and working and working and working and working at it, So it's kind of a metaphor for like, if you're able to fall into your creative cycles and start to live in your gifts in a way that your action is actually drawn out of you and pulled and you're more in the flow, then you can get so much more done and you can move mountains and move really big things. So for me, one of the things that I always have in my mind is fight like water, because I want to be able to make change in a way that is really inspired and really direct and is really balanced with the masculine energy of do and the feminine energy of receive,
I love that.
Those are my thoughts on that.
Well, tell us about the Sweetwaters, the video, because water is ever present in that video. Just literally.
Yeah, it is. So the video is something that my friend and I put together, and her name is Madeline, but her company is Stone Hope Photo. And she is an amazing collaborator, someone who I really, really, really love to work with, because I know that if I give her some ingredients, she's going to make it into a beautiful meal that I could never even think of. So I had this idea for the video, and it's nothing crazy, but it's simple and it's beautiful. And it takes something that I don't want to say too much about it, because I want people to have a surprise when they watch it, because I really love surprises. So I don't want to take that away from anyone else who loves surprises. But it takes just, when you watch the video, think about this. It takes again, I'll go into this a little bit more, but it takes the masculine energy of do and the feminine energy of receive, and it puts them together so that you're visually watching, whether you're aware of it or not, this balance and this like evolving kind of cleansing balance as it goes. And to clarify, when I say that I'm thinking of masculine energy as do and feminine energy as receive, I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about these energies that are more like the fundamental energies of creation that are on this spectrum, and how we can call one side masculine and the other side feminine. And then there's everything else that's in between and around and, all about it. But I think that the society that we are living in presently has such a focus on the do and on the action without having the action be inspired. And the video for Sweetwaters is about getting back into our receptivity and really honoring our feminine energy and the expression of ourselves that is receptive and soft and watery and wet, and taking that into balance with the masculine, the do, and then doing that in a way that shows that we have the opportunity to use that feminine energy and that receptivity and that relaxation to cleanse ourselves of the way that things have been and of our past and of our history, and just wash it all off, take it all off and set it all down.
I want to see people's face when they see the video.
Yeah.
I think you've done such a marvelous job, and I'm not going to give away any secrets now, but wow. said it's a very that's a lot to take in from it. I think that's amazing, and some of it I did right away, and some of it I it's great to hear your insight too.
And I'm excited to hear how people see it too, because it's art, right? So it's like I can make it however I want, but ultimately it has its own life once it leaves my hands, and however somebody else takes it is going to be really interesting to see too. I would like to see all those different multifaceted perspectives on its life.
Nice. Yeah, people
oh, sorry. The wide genre of music styles that you have when you were going about putting together your songs for this album, do you think like, I want to go here, I want to go there, or just came to you? I'm fascinated by just the range of really cool stuff that you put together. It's amazing. It's really unique.
Thank you. I appreciate that reflection of that. For me, I have all this music that's in me, and it comes from having very varied influences. So everything that I take in ends up coming out in some way. And if I can catch it and craft it into something that tells a little bit of my story, or puts something out there in a way that I feel like could be beneficial or inspiring to others, then those are the ones that I choose to kind of put together, you know, in a group. I have a lot of songs that aren't on this project, and a lot of songs that I have not recorded, and a lot of songs that I have recorded that I haven't put out, and some songs that I have recorded that I have put out. So a whole bunch of different ways of having music, right? And these songs that are on this project are the ones that I felt like if they didn't come out right now, I would be holding my tongue. Like if I didn't say it, I would be in pain. So these are the things that there must be a place for in the world, right? Because I really do believe that if there's anything that's on our heart that much that it needs to come out, that there's something out there that's ready to receive it, or someone out there that's ready to receive it. So I'm excited to see how it is received also. But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of different genres, and I love bridging genres, whether it's music or other things, you know. Sometimes it's other types of art altogether that come together. But I think in this project, people are going to notice that there's influences of hip hop and folk and jazz, and actually a lot of freestyle and poetry and blues, and all of the different influences that I've had growing up to this point in my life that have come together to come out in those ways. So some songs are more one, some songs are more another, some songs are kind of something weird that's made out of more than one. Some songs start off in the beginning like you think it's going to be one, and then by the end it's something totally different. And like Flood in particular is that way, and that's because I recorded that as a freestyle. It was just a vocal freestyle in the booth, and then we built the instrumental behind it to kind of match the journey of the story and the energy, because for me that was just catharsis. Like I needed to let that out. So they've all come together really differently.
Can you elaborate a little bit on Flood? I was going to ask you about that since you brought it up too, but just like that whole process, like did you go into the booth and he's like, show me, or let's talk about this, or I can't even imagine. So I'm so excited to hear this.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So here's the story. So I went out to this event that was hosted by Mac House. If you don't know Mac House yet, you should check them out. They're a really awesome group that puts together live events and opportunities for people to just get together and connect and communicate. So they put together this event, and I went out to this event, and it was the first thing that I'd been out to in a really long time. I think it was in July, and I had not been out to anything since before COVID. So it was weird and it was uncomfortable. And I saw someone there that I recognized, a few people, but there was someone there that I recognized, and I went over and struck up a conversation with him. And he said, hey, you know, I do free consultations. Maybe you could come to my studio and we could just see what we can create together. So within a few days, I went to Jason Fay's studio for the first time. And I went there with my partner. His artist name is Tom Tom. And we're in a group together too called Pact. And so Tom and I went and we were like, we're going to check this out. You know, we're going to see if either of us wants to create with Jason, or if maybe our whole group wants to, and just kind of be the feelers. So we got there and Jason was like, okay, so what's your process like? And I was like, everything. Like, songs come together for me in such a wide variety of ways that we could start with anything. And he said, okay, well then I will choose. I will put on a little loop, and how about you just start to sing and do some freestyling and see if a groove kind of comes together or something like that. We can go from there. So we found this little guitar loop that we all liked, and he put that on. And I went into the booth and I started to sing, and it was just a few minutes later, I feel like I kind of came out of my trance and we had a song. And I remember Jason and Tom were both like, that was amazing, because it ended up coming out in a way that it has a chorus. It has this part that repeats throughout the song, even though it wasn't structured, you know, like I didn't write it. I wrote no part of it ahead of time.
Wow.
And cool thing about that is like, that's not something that it's not something that I could have planned. And it comes together that way because of the journey that's going on inside when that's happening, you know. It's like pushing forward and then revisiting something, and then pushing forward a little bit more and then revisiting that thing again. And it's like, you can feel that when you're in that song, and it's like a way of really palpably capturing a little bit of my healing cycle, you know. So you have to listen to the song if you haven't, if you're listening to the podcast, to understand more what I'm talking about. But that song is like visiting some painful things. Like, there's part of it where I say, tell me why this praying hasn't found me any Holy Father. So it's like, tell me why this praying hasn't found me any Holy Father. And I'm just like begging for there to be answers, and also for this like idea of the Holy Father and this masculine energy that's just been demanded of me my whole life, to just be doing and doing and going and going and going all the time. Like, what if I just lay in the grass and let the rain wash me? Like, what happens? And I've been praying for change, and I will take it even if it comes in a flood. Like, even if it comes in a huge storm and a flood, and it's just something that's extremely difficult to handle, I'll take it. I'll take it as fast as it can come because I need it. You know, that kind of place of being in that place where you're like, just give it to me. I'll take it. And then asking like, why sometimes does it feel like my prayers aren't answered, you know? And for me, praying, it doesn't just mean like, it's not religious for me. Praying is more like talking to what's beyond me, and sometimes asking for help and sometimes giving thanks. And so, yeah, all of that just came out in that song, and it felt so good because it was like, I was just lighter afterward. And then
yeah. I was going to say, I wondered how it emotionally and physically you felt after that, but you had already answered that. I can't wait to listen to the song again, but when I heard it you freestyled it. I'm like, how does that even work? Like with the guitar, did you get an image? Did he say a word? You know what I mean? My head was just going all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's so cool.
It's the funnest thing in the world. Like it's not anything that I feel like should be it's a very humble experience is what I'm trying to say. Like getting yourself to the place where you can freestyle is not like you worked so hard that you could do it and you're super cool now. It's like you have allowed yourself to be so vulnerable and broken open that something can come out that's so beautiful that it even shocks you. And that's how I feel when I freestyle. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so beautiful in the most humble way, you know, to just be able to like really find self-love through that is awesome. And I really want people to listen to it because I think that it inspires that in other people too. Like I have a friend who goes by Massacre, and when he freestyles, he will go and go and go and go and go until someone like actually forcibly makes him stop. And it's the most awe-inspiring thing. Like I've just had tears streaming down my face watching people freestyle. So for me to be able to do that is like, it's like the ultimate form of channeling and energy work and psychic work and everything just all in art.
Okay, I have another question. Sorry.
Don't, please apologize.
How do you usually go about your writings for your songs? Is that sort of a process, or is everyone different? Is it depend on the style, or?
Yeah, they're all different. It depends. It depends on what the spark for it is. So sometimes, like if I'm working with my group, Pact, and somebody else brings a beat to the table, excuse me, we primarily do hip hop. So it's usually like somebody else is going to bring a beat, and then I'm going to be writing to like, this is my spot to write for that. And so that would be a really different looking process. That would be me sitting down, listening to it, starting to get like a flow or a cadence going, and then see what words kind of fill in that space. Other times that I'm writing rap, it's really different, where I'm just free writing and usually like typing, because I can go at the speed of thought when I'm typing. And so then I can like put it all down, and then when I say it again later, like when I reread it afterward, then it's really fun for me because I can see all the patterns in the rhyme scheme and the content that I don't see when I'm laying it out, because it's like linear for me, you know? So there's that. And then a lot of times it is just freestyle. Like if I'm playing guitar, or if my partner Tom is playing guitar, or anybody's playing guitar, then I just want to start singing, or keys or whatever. A lot of times, like if there's an instrument that's already playing, then it's really easy for me to just freestyle with that. Sometimes I just freestyle when there's no music, but a lot of the time when there's no music, I either get a little piece of a song that just kind of keeps rolling around in my head for a little while, and then I'll write that down and I'll bring it back into the studio later and get the rest, or I'll write it down, or oftentimes I don't write it down. It just kind of stays and it'll come back later, like even years later. And then the rest of the song will come on that, like once I've had another layer of experience to add to that. Other times I feel a lot and I just need to write, and then I end up writing and it comes out with a melody, or I write and it's a poem. And then once I have music available, I sing the poem. So like I have a song that I just finished creating last week. It's called Is This a Fight? And that's one that I wrote when my partner and I were like kind of fighting. I wasn't really sure if it was a fight or not. Neither of us were really talking, and it was really uncomfortable. And I was like, is this what this is? Like, is this a fight, or what is this? What's happening? I don't like this. that was just me, like, I'm gonna sit here and write on my phone because I don't really know what to say to you right now. And then brought that back into the studio, and he actually played guitar for it, which I think is really sweet. And it provides so many cool opportunities for connection, just music in general. But yeah, they all come differently. It really just depends.
It seems like it really is therapeutic for you to do. The music is therapeutic to listen to too. I mean, I think it opens it up, but it feels like it's really to your core.
Yeah, it really is necessary for my existence.
It's amazing that it's such a good fit. Choose is a song that I liked so much. And I have to say, I do a lot of work, the Women's March. I wish I'd had this song a little while ago. It's really, so tell me about, I mean, I love the imagery in it.
Okay. Yeah. This one's actually really exciting for me to talk about because there's a little bit more going on with it. And I haven't talked about it yet or put it out on any platform. So I'll let you know. But so my project comes out on February 26th. And that's the same day that Trayvon Martin was killed. And I didn't know that until like 2 weeks ago, maybe. I found out that was the same day. And I had an idea because Choose is a song that is made to inspire action and create empowerment in the listener. And it's supposed to do something in the world. It's not just something that you listen to. It's something that needs to do something. It's a very like powerful directive song. So what I decided to do, and I'm working on all the pieces of coordinating this right now, but I made a t-shirt. The t-shirt says Choose on the front, and it's black with white writing. And I wrote it just in a Sharpie. And then someone who creates t-shirts locally doing screen printing, whose name is Sai, is making them. And he is taking that word, and then a chunk of the lyrics that I wrote with marker is on the back. So we've got these t-shirts. Now we're also making a music video for this, and the Twin Cities dance crew is going to be dancing, and they're going to be wearing the shirts. And the idea is that hopefully this video and whatever life they bring to this song gets people to notice these shirts and the message that's on these shirts. And then we're selling the shirts. And we are taking 100% of the profits from the shirts and donating it to the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And there's a specific part of that foundation that is really close to my heart, which is called the Circle of Mothers. And Trayvon Martin's mom has a group that exists in like, it's so like women can come from, if you're a community leader, you can come, but also if you're just like a mother. And I'm sure that it's probably open to I would think maybe like other people who like fit into this group, but it's created for mothers who've lost their kids to gun violence. So I'm thinking like maybe other family members would be a part of that too, but I'm still learning about the group and have reached out to find out more information to see if we can donate specifically to the Circle of Mothers, because I would really love to do that. So that's what Choose is going to do. It's going to go out in the world and it's going to do something. And so far that's what it's going to do. And I hope that it does a lot of other things too, because I think that message of having the opportunity to be able to choose in every moment something is really important, because if we don't realize that there's this present moment that exists all the time and we're in it, then we don't realize that we have the opportunity to choose anything. And that strips our empowerment, our sense of power away from us. And then we're in a place where we feel like we can't really do anything. And that's a tragedy, because everybody, no matter where you are in your life, has an opportunity to do something. And when I wrote that song, I was living in Minneapolis. I am now, but I was living in another part of Minneapolis. And my neighborhood was really wild right then because George Floyd had just been murdered. And a whole bunch of people in my life, like everybody in my life and everyone I was seeing on social media, were all trying to figure out what to do. And there were a lot of people that were acting from a place of being really empowered and knowing what they could do. And there were a lot of people that were kind of more like performative allies and doing what they thought they needed to do, but it wasn't really like using their own gifts and contributing what they really could do. And then there were a lot of people who were just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I really am absolutely beside myself. What can I do? And it seemed to me like the common theme there was that if we can all just get grounded enough to be able to start to recognize our intuition and that sense of passion that can inspire action, then we'll know what to do, you know? And even if what you can do today doesn't really look like very much to somebody else, as long as you're centered in that and you're really sure that what you're doing is inspired action, then you're making a difference and you're making a change on some level that's going to affect the system as a whole. And we need to do that. Like, we need to shift our systems because they're not working. So it says United States, I say the system isn't working for us. I vow to be a leader when our leaders all ignore us. So it's just about that. Like, okay, so we all hate politics. What are we going to do about it? Like, I'm not going to sit back and wait for everything to change.
That's amazing that you have all of that going for it. Because as I said, when I heard it, I thought, oh, if I'd had this when we were organizing the march, if I'd had this, it calls you. As a listener, it calls me to do action. Yes, that's exactly what
call to action. That's my intention. So I'm glad that that's what it's doing.
Yeah, as I said, I spent a lot of time at Protester, you know, I just think that's amazing that you have a whole plan for it. And
I didn't right away, you know, like when I wrote it, I didn't have a plan for it. I just needed to write it. And that's the way that it works a lot of the time, you know, like art is alive and it'll tell you what it needs to do and what it can do as it goes. I think that these songs have a bright future that they know and I don't.
That is some I love that is some trust. I mean, I think that's amazing. I'm so impressed. I just love the idea of it, that the art led the action. It's going to, and it's going to lead more action. Let action for you, and will lead to more.
And hopefully it leads to more art. I think I really hope that this project, it goes out there and it touches people and it's like, make something, like do you, whatever it is that you create. Like, I want that. The world needs that. We really need everybody right now to be contributing their gifts. Like, the world is missing out if you're not prioritizing that.
And it's a really interesting time. I mean, especially in the Twin Cities, we've had that 1-2 punch of the pandemic, and then the George Floyd incidents. I mean, you know, and the civil unrest. It's an interesting time for people to take the time to listen to their own talents.
Yeah. And it's also just an interesting it's an interesting time because it's a time where there's so much distraction and you can choose that, you know, and it's also exhausting. And so it's like, as we go throughout our day, how do we find balance here? And when we have the opportunity to like get completely lost in social media or Netflix or whatever, but at the same time, we need to not be going all the time, because that's that imbalance of the masculine and the do. And like, how do we find that balance of being able to like rest into what we can do so that we're not stressing ourselves out so much that we have really nothing to contribute?
How do you do that? Because you seem to do it so well. I mean, obviously through music, but but for people who can't sing, asking for myself. I mean, you just seem to be so balanced. How are there other ways that you are able to tap into that receiving?
Yeah. For me, well, it's a practice for me that I'm like, it's a lifelong practice. And every day I'm doing it. And there are some days that are a lot more balanced than others, but I'm learning what the cues that my body gives me are. and that my environment and my communication and my relationships give me, so that when I see that come up, I go, oh, okay, I know what that means. That means I need a little more of this or a little less of that, or, you know, and I can do that and make those adjustments. So I think it's getting more in tune with subtle energy, because then things don't have to get really big before you notice them. And if you think about it as like, okay, so if you're in touch with, if you're only in touch with things once they get really, really big and blown up and in your face, then you're way over here before you realize that you needed to just be a little bit more over here. So you're way over here, and then you're swinging back over there, and then you're swinging back over there. And that's drastic. And that's like part of the process of finding balance, right? That's part of the practice. But if you're aware of subtle energy, then your movement is more like this, and that's directed. So I get a lot done because I prioritize increasing my awareness of subtle energy and becoming embodied and healing and finding the little things that I can do throughout the day to keep me centered. Like for me, part of this process has been finding a partner who I can go to help me stay centered. You know, like I need somebody who can touch me the right way and who can like communicate with me in a way that helps keep me on track, you know? And I need to eat food that does that too. I need food that can touch me the right way. I need food that can build my body in a way where I'm not building myself out of ingredients that take my energy, you know? And I know that these things, like everybody has a different set of ingredients and circumstances that they start their day with. So we all have to work with what we have. And that's why it's a practice. And it takes time to like build into even having the opportunity to choose some of those things. But that's something that I've done over the years, is get myself to the place that I am now with the things that I've had available. And that'll just look different for every person. But yeah, I think also for me, like it's really important for me to center myself in nature. And I have a lot of plants. Taking care of my plants is really centering for me. Taking care of my kids is really centering to me. Also taking breaks from my kids is really centering because it's a lot, you know, it's a lot. So just a whole variety of different things.
Nice.
Yeah. And creating.
And drinking more water.
And definitely drinking water. And I always need more water. I do.
It just makes me realize the wisdom so much of the title of your album. You know, it just that making the small changes that lead to the bigger changes.
Yeah, and then also like not judging what we do as being big or small, because ultimately, like, what can you do in one moment that's not small? You know? Like you don't get the opportunity to do anything big in one moment. So if you feel like you've done something big, it's just been the compilation of a lot of little moments anyway. So I think like that's just sobering to me, to be able to be like, okay, it's just right now. Let me just focus on that. Like, what am I just going to choose to do right now? And then let's let the next one roll off of that, instead of trying to plan all of them and then undoubtedly having the plan change anyway, you know? Like, I love having goals and aspirations, and I'm very determined and motivated and ambitious. And I care a lot about doing the work to get places. But at the same time, like, I don't want to create a plan ever that's so set in stone that I am ignoring the fact that water could move it.
It's a good point. I like that idea of what can you do in one moment. It's true. It's, you know, we have very few moments that are more that that you could do more than a little. Very few of those. Well, I would love to talk about some of the other songs on the CD, like Faithful.
Yeah.
Faithful
is the most difficult song for me. And it was difficult to create because I had to be really honest with myself. And it was also completely necessary to create. And I made it. So my group Pact had just formed, and we all met at the Fifth Element open mic in the summer of 2019. And as soon as I stepped on that stage for the open mic, even actually before that, just even showing up there, my whole life changed. And it was like one of those things that absolutely felt like a flood, where I had been really praying hard, like, whatever it is, just bring it on. And it came, and it was really, really, really difficult for a really long time, because I found my people. I found the people who I knew I could grow with, including my partner. And at the time, I had a partner, and I had 2 kids with him. And I had to be really honest with him and say, I don't understand what's going on, but I have feelings for someone else. And I have feelings for my passion and my music and my art and who I am as a person. And I feel this need, like my life depends on it, to take the risk to follow my heart right now. And I am afraid that if I don't do that, I'm going to miss out on whatever it is that I've been put here to do, or put myself here to do, you know? And it was like a summer of extreme difficulty and just every single thing about it was extreme. It was extreme communication because I was communicating with both of these people, and was very extremely fortunate to be talking to 2 very loving, very supportive people, because my 2 eldest kids, their dad was like, I need you to be happy too. Like, I'm a partner because we chose that. And, you know, if it's time to adjust that, then let's figure out what we need to do. But, you know, he didn't want to keep me anywhere that wasn't working either. Wow. So then, yeah, we had a lot of really difficult conversations, and it just kind of got to the point where I knew that we needed to separate, but I didn't want to do it. And I wasn't going to. I was just gonna stick to my guns and like stay dedicated to that relationship, but also try to figure out how to have like openness with this other person, and like, how do I love a person who I'm not in a romantic relationship with in a way that feels like all the love that I want to give them. And it just really wasn't working. Like, there wasn't a way to do it that fit into that structure. And I thought for a while, I was like, maybe I want polyamory, and I understand that I can't like bring my current partner to that decision also, you know? So if that's what I need, like if I'm just a polyamorous person, then maybe either way, that means that he and I aren't gonna be able to do this right now, and maybe it'll come back later, or I don't know. I really just didn't know. And then my current partner, Tom, I was working with him to try to understand that too, and see like, what's your vision? Like, what do you want and need from a relationship, and how could this maybe end up working or not? And so we actually found a lot of really awesome people through that process too, in just the local polyamorous community and non-monogamous community in the Twin Cities. And I've learned so much about relationships and relationship styles, and like, it totally blew my world open to even like consider that could be something that I wanted to try. And now at this point in my life, I'm monogamous with my partner, and that relationship style works really well for me. But I just didn't know at that time, like what was happening and how that shift could make any sense. Like, it just did not make sense to me. And in hindsight, I can see so much more, you know. But the song Faithful is about being honest and being faithful, even through a process of transition that starts to not fit into anything that we agreed on in the first place, you know. Like, we were just going to be together forever, and that was it. And I was like, how can I do this in a way that I'm operating with integrity, you know? And I think that was like, it's the only way for me to move in my life, because otherwise, like, it eats me alive inside to like not do things in a way that I feel like is right. And also that just meant that I was hurting people. Like I could not avoid extremely excruciatingly painful, and it still hurts. I am overjoyed being in the relationship that I'm in with my partner right now, and I'm grieving at the same time. And it's just what it is. It's not a black and white world.
Lives are messy.
It is. But sometimes writing a song about it or a poem just makes it feel more organized to me. It makes it feel like I can hold it, you know?
It's beautiful. There's something that strikes me. What's so funny is I was listening to the music, and I think I left the room and I came back and I just heard that I know you're something I can't keep. And that was the first part of the song that I had heard because I was out of the room. It was so funny is it made me think of my kids who are, I'm going to go on a limb and say older than your kid, I think my youngest is 16. Yeah. So I'm at a point where I'm kind of having to let go. But they're just our relationships changed, relationships really do change. But then once I heard the rest of the song, I was like, oh, no, probably not about,
No.
No, that's not but there's a lot of honesty in that song.
Yeah. And it's been, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, I like the part too, or Anne saying things you can't keep, but then I heard you say something, I'm saying goodbye to parts of myself that I can't keep too. You're saying goodbye to this and parts of yourself, which I thought was beautiful too, like shedding or letting go of things holding you down.
Yeah.
You're saying, yeah, you just have such a fantastic, vulnerable, open way of sharing the stuff that usually we want to stuff back down. And you're like, here, see it? You can handle this,
Yeah, right? If I have to handle this, then you have to listen to it.
But it actually feels like, oh yeah, I can do that. Just like with your song Chose, like we have the power, we can do it, keep moving. Like that's what you're saying, water, it's just the empowerment of everything. If you just shine a light at it and go, everybody has whatever, I don't know, you just have such a great way of sharing and empowering. So
I like to think too that if there's ever something that just seems like it could completely consume me and like never spit me back out, that there's just a third door somewhere. Like it looks like it's either this or this, but somewhere in there's a third door of opportunity that I can't see. And it usually is a shift in my perspective that is so far beyond what I ever could have imagined, that it brings peace. And it's just something that I have to pray for because I can't make it happen, And for me, that prayer being intention is really powerful, because then if I'm praying like, please bring me a shift in my perspective that allows me to see that I'm safe and I'm strong enough to move through this, and that there's something there for me that's coming, that's better, and that's more of me than what I'm experiencing right now, like work this out, please, beyond what I can do. Then what I'm doing is my actions inspired, and in every moment that I'm moving with a little bit less stress and can make better decisions, because I'm trusting that this is a process. And ultimately someday I'm going to die and I'm still not going to be dead. Like there's nothing that can keep me forever, So I think I can handle it.
The idea of the third door, I think it's, I'm going to remember that one.
Good.
You know, I think that, as Heather was saying, I think your music, that Choose is really what is a society we need to hear right now. And I think that Faithful is, you know, what some people need to hear right now, that they're, you know, things get tough, but they're, you know, there's the third door. There's the,
yeah. And Faithful is a story, and stories are always good to hear. You know, it doesn't have to be something that you've experienced before, and that's probably not something very many people have experienced before, but it's a story, and stories are really great.
They are. They are. And you can always see a little bit of, you bring to the story your own thread. So you pull out the things, I think, that you probably need to hear at the time.
I agree. That's why, like, I love to listen to music over time, because you're never going to be in the same place when you listen to a song the next time or the next time or the next time. And it's so cool to have art that can evolve with me like that. Like, I'm talking about other people's music. Like, when I listen to other people's music, I'm like, and my own too, but like, I'm meeting this song in a different place than I was even yesterday.
It's interesting. And I think, as Heather's alluded to, the kind of the difference in genre, but you know, anything that's going to have a hip hop sound is going to be a more modern sound, you know. But then I think something like Money Trees, that just sounds like 60s jazz bar to me in the best way. You know, I mean, you've got that timeliness or timelessness of the music, you know. I just think it's spanning so many different generations.
Yeah. It's just, there's a lot of ancestors in me.
And they're coming out in an awesome way. So that's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, for folks who are, I'm going to remind folks that you have got the video coming out, and now we've, pun intended, you've whetted the appetite of for people to see that on Friday, February 19th at noon. The album is coming out on February 26th. And how can people find you online?
Pretty much everywhere that you can listen to music, you will find it. And you can, so it'll be streaming everywhere. You can pre-save it on Spotify now. And I think that that's a cool thing to do, because then you get notified right when it comes out. You can also find it on Bandcamp, and you can pre-order it on Bandcamp too, if you actually want to have your own copy of those files. And let's see, YouTube, there's a different image for each of the songs. So if you listen on YouTube, you'll have that background image, and then the video for Sweetwaters is on that album playlist too. And then let's see, yeah, I think pretty much like everything else that you would stream music.
And you've got a website?
And my website is www.mamarose.blog. And it's spelled MAMAROSE.blog. And I have a lot of other stuff there besides just music too, because I do writing and I do psychic work and I do visual art, and all sorts of stuff is there.
Yeah, it's great. Wealth of information. So that's fantastic. Yep. And I am gonna look forward to the video for Choose.
Yeah, I think that'll be awesome, because I'm totally like, that is not in my hands. I gave it to the Twin Cities Dance Crew and said, you have creative control, like, make this whatever you want. And so they're going to make it awesome. And they said, they were like, with full creative control, we can guarantee that you will not be disappointed. And I was like, that sounds completely sure. Like, they just sounded so sure. And I was like, that's great.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And like,
the surprise you love.
It takes on, like, somebody else gets to also make it, you know. Like, I just love collaborating so much.
That is just the best of collaboration right there. Well,
yeah.
Well, we are looking forward to all of that, and we thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's really fantastic to learn more about the music and your process, and it's really I've learned many things tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. It's really special to be able to talk about it, and I love it. So I really appreciate you having me on too. And I just want to let people know too that social media, if you want to follow me on social media, is on all social media platforms. It's the same. It's Dear Mama Rose, like you're writing a letter. DearMamarose. So you can find that. And then my group, Pact, is Pact, PACT Music, MPLS, Pact Music Minneapolis on everything.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Heather.
Thank you very much.